I'm still learning to read, so it's okay. I'll catch up. So, anybody here ever heard of the Lascaux Caves in Paris, France? It's not in Paris, but it's in France. Well, the Lascaux Caves are just like this cave that we're in now, dark, cold, a little bit damp, and on the walls there's pictographs just like we have here, except the pictographs in the Lascaux Caves, there's bison, there's people with spears, there's like some dogs and wolves. But the thing about all of these pictographs is that all of them have extra sets of arms and legs. And when anthropologists first went into these caves, they're like, yo, I think these people were tripping on mushrooms because all of these figures have extra limbs and appendages and we can't quite figure out why that is. And then one day someone walked into the caves with a torch that was on fire, and as the flames danced against the walls, the figures began to animate, and something dawned on them, and they realized motion pictures have been with us for a very, very long time, much longer than we think. And I think that's something that's bringing us all here together in this cave today, is that we love motion pictures, we love storytelling, and it's been with us a long time, and it will be with us for a long time, as long as we put our hearts and our energy into making that possible. And in the face of adversity, I know we're gonna do that. So thank you for coming today, because I know you're the type of people that are gonna make motion pictures awesome and keep telling human stories no matter what happens. So thank you for joining us. Give yourselves a pat on the back. So just to get this out of the way, like, what are some of your favorite movies? Just shout out your favorite films. Don't be embarrassed. Once Upon a Time in America. In the Mood for Love, Wong Kar-wai. Shout out, yes. Chinatown. Apocalypse Now, an anamorphic film, just like Chinatown. Blade Runner, one of my favorites. Very dark movie, but cool. We're kind of living in that movie now, I feel like. Lawrence of Arabia, goated. Heat, yes. My friend's dad was the key grip on Heat, and I didn't really understand really what that meant when I was a kid. And now that I do, I'm like, man, that guy was awesome. Well, we all love movies, and that's something we all share. And I think we all want to use technology to tell the best possible stories. And that's why I'm here, because I wanted to make lenses that would have let me make movies that looked like the movies of my heroes. Movies like Blade Runner, movies like Punch Drunk Love, movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, adventures, exciting, crazy stories, but about people at the end of the day. And when I was at NAB this last year, I saw a slow motion camera that I was like, wow, the dynamic range on that camera, it makes me think of like regular cameras. It's not like a compromise, like a slow motion camera where you're like, well, yeah, that's really slow footage and it looks really smooth and slow, but it's like very crunchy looking, or like the dynamic range is bad, the color's bad. And so that's the first thing that caught my eye, is that, hey, this footage looks really nice. And, shout out to Ariel, because he filmed that footage with an early prototype camera that, they had to like use Unix to log into it with the terminal and push run. What is this, Jurassic Park or something? I don't know. But he's had the most seat time of any of us with the camera, and the rest of us, we just got seat time in the last 2 days. And what do you guys think? Was it pretty fun? Was it pretty crazy?
I'm very encouraged. I'm amazed how far it's come.
In a short time, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a camera. Yeah, all the cameras are getting better and better, and we're always looking forward to seeing what's coming next. And this one's better and better and better.
The future's great.
Yeah.
The future is now. Cool. Well, I think, rather than talking about this camera and about my awesome lenses, by the way, has anyone here ever used an Atlas anamorphic lens? All right. And who hasn't used an Atlas anamorphic lens yet? We can change that today. We're going to make your life better, I promise you, right after this. Just got to bear with it for now. but we're going to change your day. That being said, I'd love to just quickly show a few clips from these folks and let you become acquainted with some of their previous work. They've inspired me. I think what they've done is really cool, and that's what we need in this world is better role models. I mean, gosh, like what is going on in this country? That's not role modeling. That's a catastrophe. Anyway, not to get political, but you gave me the microphone, so you're going to get it. So without further ado, why don't we turn off that NanLux. Shout out to NanLux for sponsoring our illumination package for this adventure we're on. And I will very briefly roll a couple clips from Mr. Stump, ASC, BVK.
And from the others.
First you. Gotta start at the top.
Oh, man.
I promise you that's only the second train wreck you're going to have to go through today after my presentation. Just going to briefly load up that next clip.
I owe a battle.
You're following Wednesday so that you can fight in his war and die, and for that you run his errands?
I done worse than that.
Dying worked for me. Everyone should try it at least once. Seems like you've walked the earth a couple hundred years in those boots already, so you're due.
So there's an old saying that the best technology is indistinguishable from magic. And in motion pictures, we're in the business of illusion. And this magic is indistinguishable from reality. So I think we're living in the best of all worlds. What would you guys say? Let's give a hand up for Mr. David Stump, ASC BVK. Mr. Ty Evans isn't here, so we're going to skip his reel for now, but we will get right into Drew Lauer's reel here real quick. Woo! Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. I mean, one of the things I really love about Drew's reel is that you really bring together all the elements of nature. You've got water, earth, fire, wind, heart. I'm going to call you Captain Planet from now on. It's beautiful. And barbecue. And barbecue. Most important part. So, of all of us, there's only one person here who really has the most seat time with this camera, as we said, and has been working with it since the thing had to be controlled with 2 wires and, hot wired like a car without keys. And that is Mr. Ariel Levesque from Montreal, Canada. So everyone, please give a hand up for this gentleman. We'll run it. Some technical difficulties, am I right? So why don't we get right into it? Let's bring up the house lights and we can get into talking about 5 key points of slow motion cinematography. Y'all ready for that? Hope you brought your questions. I know I did. And then after we do the quick Q&A with these folks and talk about some of the 5 top techniques, tips, tricks, cheat codes, as some may call them these days, for slow motion cinematography, we can get into actually trying this thing, putting it through its paces. We're going to want some volunteers from the audience to help us out. What do y'all think? Should we do it? All right, let's run it. So I'm going to quickly pass the mics out to these folks. This one's for you.
Top things to consider. Oh, thank you, sir. Yes.
For your consideration.
Oh, we each get one this time. Upgrading every time. We get more mics every
Keeps
time.
getting better.
So, these are our presenters. Unfortunately, we lost Mr. Godoldik and Mr. Evans earlier, but they miss you. They sent their best regards. You will see them soon. But the 5 top questions that we have there, 5 key points, are why shoot slow motion or high-speed frame rates in the first place, and what are good frame rates? Like, who here shot over 120 frames a second before? Who here shot over 240 frames a second? All right, we're getting there. How about 480 frames a second? Okay, a few less. All right, let's go 1,000 frames a second. Okay, way less, right? But imagine what you could do with a camera that can do 1,000 frames a second, 4K raw in high dynamic range, or 2K raw at 1,800 frames a second, high dynamic range raw. I can imagine a few things. I mean, those reels inspired me to think about a lot of things I could do, but I'm sure there's some I haven't thought of yet that I bet all of you can think of. So, if you don't mind elaborating for us, I mean, we saw some work from each of you that's really incredible stuff. But share with us sort of your perspective on why shoot slow motion in the first place, and kind of how do you go about selecting frame rates that make sense for what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I'll start off by talking about shooting motion picture and television visual effects work. It's an age-old technique to use overcrank for miniatures work, and that's why I brought along a couple of these sequences today, specifically the runaway train sequence, because I'd invite you later to examine it and see if you can pick which were the miniature trains, but a lot of the trains in those shots were 8th scale miniatures being pulled by a car and overcranked at between 70 and 58 frames per second. And it's a tried and true technique with physical rules about how to shoot miniatures dependent on scale. And if you look at the screen, I invite you to go ahead and photograph that or copy it any way you want. That's kind of my miniatures scale and frame rates table.
These are the cheat codes.
These are definitely the cheat codes. So
I was thinking about this more.
yeah,
So, because we were talking about how liquid doesn't work because mostly because of the size of the particles of a tiny piece, one particle of liquid water specifically. We just don't know what that looks like. So as soon as you miniaturize it, that's going to look like a big particle.
right. The spray never gets fine enough.
Right.
Mostly never gets fine enough to do miniatures, to do miniature water.
There's tricks you can do.
Yeah,
but,
you
but
can
then I
do
said
some
gravity.
tricks.
But where are you getting these from gravity? So you're watching things like where did you get these where did these calculations come from?
These calculations come from just the physical size of the miniatures and the physics of, if you figured out miles per hour in different scales, you would arrive at these frame rates. And this is kind of agreed wisdom. This is something that this table, I think, is one that originated in the American Cinematographer Manual. It's that old.
Yep.
And if you go to the next slide, it explains the theory and the math behind shooting miniatures at these speeds. But it's fairly straightforward math. The water thing is its own exception, though. Water doesn't really work very well as a miniature. I mean, one of the tricks you can do is to get non-sudsing detergent, like a dishwasher detergent, and add vast quantities of it to the water that you're going to use, and that lowers the viscosity slightly, and the drops get smaller, and water
Could you
is...
maybe a ship, because we've seen plenty of miniature ships on ocean, maybe, you know.
But the other thing that usually gives that away is depth of field, so you have to light it up like, and you'll talk about that in a minute or so, but you have to add enough light so that you can stop down enough, because what happens is as you shrink down into the miniature world, human beings become smaller too. So if I'm shooting an 8th scale train, I have to assume that I'm an 8th scale person. And I have to lower the camera down to, if my point of view is from 5 feet high, I have to lower it down to 1/8 of 5 feet, which means the ground is physically closer, which means I've got to stop down so that the ground looks as sharp as it would if I was 5 feet tall. So there are a lot of constraints that go into this, including f-stop, light levels, frame rates, motion speeds. Water almost works at miniature scale, but then it almost works at full scale. Flames work really, really well if you have a good pyrotechnician who knows what kind of mixture of materials to burn, because there are way lower viscosity materials that you can burn, like naphthalene and alcohol. You can work at miniature scales very nicely with flames. But the thing to remember about shooting fire and flames at high speed is that fire has a sweet spot for exposure. And you'll know this intuitively the next time you see what somebody has done badly at night, where they shoot a scene under normal night exposure, and then they blow something up, and the flames just they overexpose and they peak out, and they lose their texture, they lose their color, they just turn into big bright blobs. So you have to light your scene to the sweet spot of the fire, because the fire is not going to change its exposure for you. It's not going to wait for you. You have to meet it with light levels. So that's why I brought along miniatures work, so that I could show you that there are physical rules that go into doing visual effects, and these are the cheat codes for those rules.
And I would say, like, the stop value, that has to do with magnification ratio. So when you're closer to an object, your background is going to fall out of focus faster. So, your bokeh is going to become more apparent. That's why you need to stop down, because your apparent pupil size should also change with the scale of your object, right?
In addition to that, the stop has to stop down because, and I've explained this to some of my classes before, but it just occurred to me to explain it tonight. If you were shooting at, let's say, a 2-stop at full scale, and then you want to work at 8th scale, you have to work at an 8th scale T-stop as well. And equally importantly, when we do miniatures a lot of times, is that these giant lights that you use, now you have to use 8th scale lights to light the scene. So you have to think everything in scale when you work in miniature.
Bro really said Ant-Man is real.
I'm good. Where's those points at? What
Oh, thank you, yes.
composition, I think, was my favorite. Yeah.
Composition and decomposition.
Yeah. So Well, I've been filming with slow motion cameras for 20 years now, and they've come through a lot of different iterations, and I've done everything from Science Discovery Channel, Mythbusters genre blow 'em up shows to fashion and models, huge music videos, and my purpose has, and now I'm doing a lot more food, beverage, product, things like that. I'm using robots and other technology to beef it up. But my purpose has always been to take I've always been an artist first, so I'm always after the picture. And I like the technology and all, but it's a means to an end for me. I'm not interested in the technology for the technology's sake. I'm interested in it because I'm trying to get to there. I'm trying to make a picture, use it to make something. So that's always my perspective, and I think a lot about composition for high speed all the time in everything that I do, whether it's on sticks or if I'm handheld skiing down a mountain or on a robot or all sorts. And one of the main things I always think about is not framing for what we're seeing now or exposing, similar to the explosives. You're not exposing or framing for what you see right now, because what's about to happen is a lot different than what you're looking at right now, whether it's a car crashing or rose petals shooting up or a skateboarder doing the trick. You have to anticipate what is going to happen next, and it's only going to happen like this, and we're only going to do it once, often, all the time. It's only going to happen one time, and so you cannot miss it. And so therefore also framing wider than you think is just, you're going to have to, because you've got a star football player, and when they throw the football, if you have a normal camera, or if they're running across a normal camera and you're tracking them along and you lose their head for a split second, it's fine. It's action-packed and it's all over there. Phantom camera, you lose a slow motion camera, you lose the head for half a second at 1,000 frames per second, and that's 20 seconds of the football player with no head. And so they're only gonna use bits of it, so you keep it, when I was younger, we used to play it safe and make sure that we get it, and now the game becomes, as your reflexes get better and better, and you just get used to what they're gonna do, and you know how the motion of the ball is gonna be getting tighter and tighter, and then it becomes more like playing a musical instrument, just learning how to do it well, and learning the technicalities of it, learning all the intricacies of everything that you can in order to achieve it, and then when it's time to perform, you've got muscle memory and you have practice, 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 and intuition. What are the others? Lighting for high speed, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Lighting for high speed, more lighting. High speed it's like a slowdown ratio. It's a ratio, like you're shooting more frame rates, but ultimately, just like when you're shooting log, you're not showing log. So you're capturing more so that you can choose what you're going to show, and the same applies to frame rates. You're going to capture 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,800 frames per second. But at the end, you're showing 24 or 30, or hopefully not 60, but that might happen. So this is a ratio that you're slowing down. You're going to ramp through it and stuff. But basically, that's that ratio. If you're shooting at 1,000 frames per second, going to show it at 24, you're looking at 40 times ratio. You're going to, you're slowing down time by 40. You're going to need 40 times more light at the same shutter angle. I mean, not the same shutter angle, but at the same T-stop with the same sort of ISO base, that's how much more light you're looking at. So this is something to remember, because your shutter angle to keep it at 180 is always going to be half of what your frame rate is. So that's something to remember. More light and more time, generally speaking. Drew is saying oftentimes the shots will only happen once. And that's true for probably a lot of those like big, explosions and stuff like that. But when you do a lot of tabletop stuff, or a lot of things that involve tabletop and product stuff, and a lot of things that involve like physics that are sort of unpredictable, you can be repeating that shot 60 times over 2 days to get the right moment when that popcorn kernel will finally pop right in the center and land right there. There are things you can't control, so you will be doing this over and over. And sort of developing, or just like the process of like going through that footage in post. It's a lot more footage. You record it for a few seconds, you have a handful of minutes. And similarly, if you recorded minutes, then you have hours and hours to go through. I mean, you had a funny story about the lighting bolt. I don't know if you want to go over that
the
one.
highest frame rate?
The 180,000?
Yeah, so the highest frame rate I've ever filmed that actually aired on television, we tested it at higher frame rates and decided, because with high-speed cameras, you can always sacrifice resolution to gain more frame rate. And we were working with a camera that could do up to, I think, 1.2 million frames per second. But at
It's like 3 pixels.
yeah, resolution you can't use. So after some testing, we decided on 180,000 frames per second. Was still lower than SD, but enough to see, and we're doing this science show. And we're at Mississippi State University, where they have a 3-story Tesla coil indoors, and they shoot lightning out of it. And that's how they test lightning and learn about lightning. And it was great. You could be right under it when it was happening, because it was all, I mean, it was science. They have lightning rods all around you, and they know it's going to go to this spot. So we were standing right under it. Lightning bolts. It's crazy. So we have this camera, 180,000 frames per second, and I'm pointed out here, and like Dave was saying, the game is to close down as much as I can. So I'm F22. I can't remember if I had NDs or anything, but I was getting as dark as I possibly could, because I knew that this lightning bolt was going to be so bright, and it was going to illuminate the room around us as well as we did it. We had a car set under there. It's like a sense of scale. It was a science show. And so, zap, we set it off, and I hit the trigger, and now I have a clip that is 2 days long. That is all black, except for somewhere in the middle, somewhere there's going to be a lightning bolt strike. I know it. And I just can't find it. And I'm like on set trying to, it's a 2-day clip. I can't find the thing. And I know I have it. I'm really confident. But we do it a few more times just to make sure. And I'm like, I got like at least 3 clips of this. And I'm on the airplane on the way home, and I'm like frame by framing, like it's gotta be in there somewhere. Like it's gotta be. And I didn't find it that day. I found it the next day. I think at home. Again, just going through the thing, trying to find it, and boom, finally found it. And it was 7 frames of this lightning bolt forming and hitting the car, and then 20 frames of it sort of dissipating into blackness again for another, I don't know, day and a half of footage. Because we would set our trigger point, if anybody's familiar with end trigger on cameras, with phantom cameras, we'll have like a 5-second roll. Well, back then, the roll times were like 0.8 seconds. So you couldn't really count to 0.8. Like, how do you even, so what we would do is we would put our trigger at 33%. And so as soon as I saw that lightning bolt go off, boom, I'm hitting it as fast as I can, and I've got 1/3 before and 2/3 after was generally how I would do it. And using that system, I was confident that I knew I had the shot. It was in there somewhere.
You were like 1.3 days in.
It was yeah, so there was one camera that did, I think MIT did it, and did 1 trillion frames per second. Did y'all see that? It was it was a few years back, but they said if you threw a tennis ball across the room, the clip would be 3 years to watch it. Yeah.
Also, it shows like a different wavelength. It's not really like an image. It's more like, it gets very experimental. At this
Yeah,
point.
well, all these cameras are made for science. Originally, that's why. And my whole job, when we started, these were science cameras that were used by NASA, Boeing, Ford Motor Company for crash testing, and here we were trying to use them for entertainment. We want to make art with these. And so, yeah.
And that's a very good point. That's what, because he was talking about circular buffer, or like the way that the post trigger or pre trigger works. And this comes from the way those cameras were engineered to sort of like see a missile hitting a concrete wall or a lightning bolt or stuff, designed for industrial, scientific, or military applications. And so they were never built in mind for filmmakers and what we're used to, and the big 6 settings and all that, which is something that's fun to talk about, because now we have a camera that's been built from the ground up for filmmakers with that in mind. So there's going to be a difference in similarities to what we're talking about when we get to the Pixboom, but some stuff like pre-trigger and all that still sort of apply, because we gotta sort of like meet the veterans in the middle and give them what they're used to. But there's something exciting, like it's been said a lot in the previous workshops, like where people that are getting into slow motion now, you guys are spoiled. This is a good time. These are good times to get into that new technology where there's like, it's so much easier. There's so much, like, a lot of people have thought about it for a long time, and now you get to reap the benefits.
I like to think of it in probabilities. So your probability for success, your possibility of achieving success is actually much higher. Like, we typically are thinking like, this is a bad time. And, in the scale of our lifetime, this is a bad time. But, knock on wood, we're not living in the plague times. I hope. This is, everything's relative, right? But
Give it a minute.
camera-wise, it's a lot easier. Like we stand a better camera-wise, we stand a better probability of achieving success.
Yeah, we've got good cameras now.
Cool. So, I'd love to speed run the second 2 points. I think we did talk about motion, camera, and subject movement. and tricks for that, and we did talk about lighting. Do we want to talk about some of the technical considerations? I think we have some people here who are
Yeah.
well-versed in both artistry and technology. So do you want to just get right into those, or do you want to let people ask questions?
We can talk a little bit about technical stuff. Like I think you know a lot about it too. I can talk about a few things. Like I said, things are getting easier, so it's better. I would like to hear your questions about it. But like one thing that comes to mind when you shoot high-speed photography, you're really speeding up your shutter angle as well. So, and very rarely, for some projects I'll have, and very rarely you'll use a slow motion shots in its entirety at the speed, like, at the slow down speed you use it. You'll speed ramp through it. You'll start at real time, go fast, coming down, like so. And what happens then is that you're breaking your shutter angle a lot, so you'll have like stuttery motion, then you get back to smooth. So there are tricks in post to do for that. This is not something that realistically, up until we come up with it, that can be done in camera, because changing shutter speed, like doing speed, like it can be done doing speed ramps camera, but it's not something I would want to do, because then you lose the ability to choose where you're gonna slow down and speed up. But plugins like Real Smart Motion Blur or some version of Twixtor will allow you to slow down and sort of retrieves that motion blur to keep that natural feeling. So that's something that's interesting, and to keep in mind. The same way when you look at time lapses that were shot at like a high shutter speed are hard to watch because they're very stuttery, unless that's the effect you're going for. But it's something that, like, it's not the kind of motion that we're used to. So that's one technical consideration.
Yeah, speed ramping and motion blur is a big thing. Yeah, we were talking earlier. Somebody said I'm always at 360 shutter, which is no. There's lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons to not be at 360, but I will default out at 360 all the time, because f-stop's often more important to me, and frame rate's more important, lighting is more important. And are there reasons to go down all the time, every day? Albeit changing it per shot, but my default.
It's a great point though to bring up the 360, because high speed you can get away with it. Like even when you're closing
they're
down
going to ramp
so
it
much.
anyway, so they're going to ramp it, and it's going to speed ramp, and this will be one less step of the strobe thing.
Yeah.
And thank God for post motion blur, because it's changed. I mean, it's so much
And
nicer.
you're usually going to want that extra stop that it gives you.
Extra
You should
stop.
probably mention your secret speed, 760.
768 frames per second. Write that down. Best
That's a
frame
bumper
rate.
sticker right
Best
there.
Frame, it is, yeah. 768 is my favorite frame rate. Yeah. So 768 is it feels like 1,000, which is great. 1,000's between 500 and 1,000 is great for human motion, animals, fire, most liquids. Most of the things fall in that world. 768 is a perfect multiple of 24. So 240 is fine. It will get you there, but it's not 24 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And 768 gives you really natural.
To square it up.
Yeah, natural speed ramping. You can easily do 200%, and even when you need to feather it, using some software to feather the speed ramp, it's just going to feel much smoother and more natural, in my opinion. And again, with the motion blur too, you're going to speed ramp, and so I feel like motion blur, a lot of times, a huge amount of when I'm doing stuff and talking to a director, whether it's Phantom or robots or drone or time lapse, I often say, listen, we don't want to be like, yo, look at my Phantom shot, everybody. Like, stop everything. No, we want it to flow right into the rest of the edit and just feel like, most people aren't even going to register that it was slow-mo. It just hits with
Hidden
everything
drama
else.
or whatever, but like it's there for a purpose, not to show off.
Yeah, we're a
so
part of
much
a
it.
whole. Yeah.
And you need to prepare yourself to manage the expectations of your directors, your producers, your crew, your DITs, everyone involved, because if you're shooting at high speed, you're accumulating a lot more data a lot faster. If you're shooting at high speed on film, what you might have covered in 1,000 feet of film, I've worked with cameras at 1,000 frames per second. You can watch a roll of film do this in the magazine. It's astounding.
That's it.
And-
If it doesn't jam.
Yeah, and I once had a production manager come to me at the end of a day, and he stepped up to me and stood beside me quietly and whispered in my ear, and he said, "Really, Dave? 50,000 feet of film in one day?" So you have to be ready to manage expectations, and you have to be ready to manage the expectations of a lot more light and a lot more film, or a lot more digits, a lot bigger discs, and a lot more time to drain the shots off the cameras, and a lot of time to transfer them. It's about managing expectations.
Oh, flicker.
Talk about
That's a
flicker.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, sure. We're going to get into this specific sensor and how more sensitive it is than the typical high-speed cameras you've been used to or haven't been used to yet. But one thing that no matter how sensitive you are, if you want to shoot like street lights, city nights, stuff like that, a lot of the lighting that you don't control works at a certain frequency, whether it's AC or even worse on LED. It will flicker at I mean, when you get past the frequency of the light, you basically you see the light going on and off, and there's not much that can be done about it. There's stuff that can be done in post. There's fantastic plugins now that will sort of take care of it, but really, it's, I mean, sort of, but really, this is something that either you want to have control over, change the lights, kill them, or whatever, or avoid entirely if you can. If not, there are solutions. There's stuff like Digital Anarchy has a fantastic flicker-free plugin that does miracles. I've saved shots but this is something that we have to deal with, like stuff that. And there's a lot of.
And you have to you have to be cautious about what lights you use, because some lights flicker and some lights don't. So you have to test them, and you have to know what the power supply is. Most modern LEDs are really, really well-filtered power supplies, and the diodes get pure, straight DC at very high powers, and that's not a problem. We used to use tungsten lights. Ironically, a small tungsten light like an Inky would actually flicker at high speed because the filament was small enough that it pulsed in time with 60 cycle power, whereas a 10K would not visibly flicker because it was just such a big glowing chunk of filament in there.
5K and above was the rule of thumb with a
Yeah.
tungsten head. But if you had like a 9-light Maxi Brute with a bunch of 1K heads, that's no bueno. It's going
No,
to
it's going to
flicker. It
flicker.
really will.
And
Yeah.
the other thing that we ran into, I didn't mention this anytime today, but when we first started getting T-grain emulsions film stocks, and I'm going to say this was in the 90s, we started seeing film stock pressure flicker, because as the film would come out of a magazine and go into a camera movement, just the changing of shape fast enough would cause pressure flicker in the film. And it took us a year to figure that out with T-emulsion stocks. We finally did enough film tests, and we went back to using old emulsions like 5247 to keep from seeing pressure flicker inside our cameras. And we modified the rollers inside the cameras so that they were bigger, so that the film didn't have to turn so fast before it went through the gate. It took a long time to figure out, but eventually we beat it.
That's why I stick to coffee emulsion.
Oh.
Forgive
So
me.
yeah, flicker is a thing. It will be a thing, but it's much better on global shutter sensors than on CMOS sensors. So instead of getting that banding that goes up and down, and that's impossible to fix, at least
I'm surprised we haven't even talked about HMIs because they've gone so out of style. I mean, they're not out of style, but now with phantom cameras, we generally just avoid them, whereas we used to use
I don't see HMIs on set
with
then.
magnetic ballasts. But, you
Yeah.
know, and they do work. They do work, but they're so hot, and thank God we were brutal on those hand models.
Sonas
Yeah,
and
the
hair
hand models got
and
it
hair
good now.
makeup artists.
Yes, so it was the worst. Yeah, so
I've
LEDs have
actually
changed
melted
everything.
Product on product shots.
Oh yeah, we've had melting things. Yes, yes.
So, just in the interest of getting our hands to actually try these cameras and these lenses today, I want to open up the floor to the audience to ask 3 magic questions.
Oh.
Then we're going to get right into shooting a little demo scene. What do you think?
Doesn't have to be magic.
So, top question. Who wants to ask first? Yes, you win a
Yes.
prize for asking. Come get it. And you can ask your question on mic.
It's like Price is Right.
So what you got is a very special prize for being bold and having a question. It's from our friends at Mr. Charlie's. It says, not a millionaire yet. It's a Powerball lottery ticket. If you win, please buy an Atlas lens and a Pixboom Spark, please. Thank you.
What's the question?
Yes, question.
This may be a dumb question.
No dumb questions, only dumb answers, and I'll be taking care of that part. These guys have the smart answers.
So I film dancers. Is it a choice between slower motion and motion blur?
Well, slow motion cuts down on motion blur. So I don't
Which
know.
I don't want.
You want the motion blur or you don't want the
I
motion
want
blur?
the motion
Yeah,
blur.
me too. Often I
Oh,
do,
right.
yeah. So you would,
You'll need very fast dancers if you want to keep motion blur.
And they look weird.
yeah, you can get them move, if you get them moving fast and spin around with hair, you will have motion blur. Stick to 360 shutter and then use some post effects to add it in as
Yeah,
well.
I was going to say 360 shutter helps that a lot because if you can use an integrating software instead of a frame sorting software to create your different speeds, then you can integrate multiple frames to recreate single frames.
Sort of frame blending, yeah.
Yeah, frame
Sounds complicated.
blending will allow you to keep the motion blur.
Do you have a still photo camera? Yeah. Do you have a still photo like a DSLR camera? So if you set it to 1/1000th of a second, and any other settings, you're going to be able to and film just take some still photos of your dancer spinning. That will be the exact same amount of motion blur that you would see at 1,000 frames per second with a 360 shutter. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1/1000th. Yeah.
We got the second question. You win a prize. We got you, Mr. Charlie's Not So Screwed quarter 20 threaded screw. So please come. Something you always need, right? Come on, ask me a question, please.
Is it too early to ask for the specs of the camera?
No,
Yeah,
we can get
Let's
right
go.
into it.
Let's get into it.
Do that during the
Yeah, as we go through the demo, we'll talk about the specs and stuff. You'll know all about it, yeah.
Keep it.
No, keep it. You
Hey,
deserve it.
Give it away. Who wants it? All right, let's go. Cool.
well said.
All right, we got the third magic question, and then I'm going to throw some mini slates at you. We got Daniel here. Come on down, Daniel. You are going to win a prize, too. Yeah, let's go. Let's get
I think
to
we're in
it.
technical
Your prize is
question
a
time.
hat
That's
from
where we're at.
OWC Jellyfish. You get a hat, and here you go.
So I guess this might be more of a question for the Pixboom team, but maybe you guys have some
Using the
thoughts
camera
Go
for
for
months.
it.
Yeah.
Hit me.
the Pixies. So it seems that the format for the camera is Cinema DNG.
Sort
great
of
format.
correct, yeah.
Okay, sort of correct. In a wrapper.
Yeah. No, so the
Well-
camera internally recorded in a PXBL format, which is a proprietary RAW format that essentially is a wrapper for DNGs.
Got it. So
Yeah.
my question is, could we get some compressed RAW options like the open source Blackmagic RAW could give you a much more optimized?
Well, if you know anything about Red and now Nikon and stuff, and their
Well,
propensity
it doesn't
to litigate.
infringe on the patent due to the way that in which the RAW is stored.
Correct. No, so basically what Blackmagic gets around it by half debayering in camera. So
Correct.
they're not essentially compressing a RAW, but they've got good liars here at Red and Nikon. And when you compress RAW, whether it's a wavelet or, I mean, basically they keep like renewing that patent and whatnot.
We'll see what
but
happens.
I hear
mean,
you.
At the
and
end of the
we-
day,
we've
they
got some very,
stole
very.
JPEG 2000 technology, which pre-existed before they
Oh,
tried
I'm
to
with you.
patent
I'm
it,
with
which
you.
you're not allowed to do. You can't patent something
Oh.
that's already pre-existing.
You're preaching to the choir here,
So-
but yes, with actually, there's some very we're doing some very interesting things on that front. It's very optimized. I mean, the camera's moving 12 gigabyte, not gigabit, gigabyte per second from the sensor straight to the SSD.
Sure.
In a very optimized way, and when you transfer that PXBL to CDNG, it gets compressed at losslessly compressed to 33% of the original weight, and there's got to be more options for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I have advice. Take the B out of the name for the file format. Just call it a
Pixel.
PXL. It's way catchier. PXL sounds like a pixel. Come on, dude.
I love it.
Let's go. All right, I'm going to give one more person one more chance to ask a question, then we're going to get right into shooting slings. So, Mr. Julio, and then we'll get the other questions during the workshop if that
Yeah,
works.
absolutely.
It'll take us time
Julio,
to set up
come
and we
on,
can ask
buddy.
more questions.
It's more like a curiosity. You mentioned there's a sweet spot for
for flames and explosion. Could you share the secret sauce with us?
What's the sweet spot?
Secret sauce for flames and explosions.
Oh, that's a good one.
1,000.
1,000, 1 million.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Yeah, it depends on your frame rate and your shutter angle and your ISO. It's, you know, it's all the exposure triangle. But just off the top of my head, if I know I'm shooting on ISO 100 film, for example, with a 180 shutter at 120 frames per second, I can usually get away with 11.
Just on top of his head. No big deal.
Yeah.
We call that the spinal tap rule because it goes to 11.
Yeah, if you're shooting an explosion outside, daytime, middle of the day, like Dave was saying,
It's gonna be
It's
perfect.
going to be perfect. And we used to do a lot of these out in the desert, doing these science shows where we'd blow up cars and whatever out in the desert. And the game became, after doing so many, dozens of these things, we realized that as we're doing it, what you want to do is close down your lens as far as you can, f16, f22, bring your ISO down if that's an option, because what you do, you don't want to bring it, you want to bring it dark enough so that the world in the desert, you can still see it. It's going to look dark. You're going to see it, and it's like, everything's in 12 to 15 IRE, and it's really, really dark. But you got to remember, nobody's watching that part of the shot. In a moment, there's going to be a boom, and it's going to be big and fiery and red, and you will be super lucky to keep all of it from clipping. That was the game. Close it down all the way and try and get it all to be in under without clipping. And we did it, I think, twice ever, that we got this perfect orange. You'd inevitably get a little bit of the edges in the heat getting just clipped as white. And you know, whatever else was around it, you gotta remember that fireball is illuminating the car that we're blowing up now. And so all the pieces flying off of it are lit at the best exposure. It's really nice. And should the background in the sky is still dark, nobody's looking at that. They're looking at this gorgeous, beautiful thing, the fiery red. Yeah, and actually on frame rate wise, we used to shoot explosives at bigger and bigger. Oh, I just got your joke. We used to shoot we used to shoot them explosives at 1,000, 1,800, 2,000, 6,000, 10,000 frames per second, and there's always a moment, no matter what, where there's no explosion, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a circle, and it's like the faster you go, there's always going to be this moment. It's like this infinite moment. Yeah.
It's really satisfying when you nail it, I will say that.
Yeah.
Or you can shoot a couple seconds of the right exposure and then close down and then.
Make a plate.
Live and do it?
Pose guy.
You could, yeah, or open up, open up once the.
Yeah, we
the
do
red
that
is
all the
gone.
time
Mhm.
on visual effects. We'll do a surrounding plate, and then you mat the explosion, and you fill in the rest
Yeah.
of the scene.
At that point, you can shoot a complete black, and it'll composite
Yeah.
even easier. Yeah.
Yeah, if you frequently we'll do effects shows where we will deliberately black a stage and shoot nothing but pyro in there and use luminance keys to pull the pyro out of the black and put it into other scenes. I guess I might have should have brought that clip along too, but I did a show for Sony years ago called Hollow Man. And there was a point where I spent a month outside the Spruce Goose hangar down in Playa del Rey in a black tower that was taller than the hangar itself, with scaffolding all around it and cameras looking down in housings, doing nothing but shooting flames up the tube, which we used to create fire inside an elevator shaft as elements later. And I shot tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of feet of film of flames inside that black tube before I ever got in and started shooting the elevator sequence. All of it at 120 frames per second.
Has anyone here ever taken the ASC Masterclass? I'm just going to take a moment to do a quick plug for the American Society of Cinematographers here in Hollywood, California. You need to take an ASC Masterclass. They had one earlier this week. It was a special one because it was a short and condensed one. $75. This is like a $3,000 class normally. you have to go take an American Society of Cinematographers masterclass. You are going to love it. You're going to get information from folks like David Stump, ASC, BBK, people that have been around the world, seen things we can't even imagine. It's incredible. They're going to teach you. They're going to love teaching you. They're going to learn from you because they want to see what's going on with everyone out there in the world. And cinematographers are just some of the best people because they want to share their experiences. They want to share their knowledge. They share a passion for storytelling. And I think all of us here share that. So please take an ASC masterclass if you get the chance. It's worth every penny and every moment you'll spend. You'll never forget it.
Next one is September 15th to 19th.
September 15th to 19th. That's coming up. Don't miss
Shout
that.
out.
Shout out to the ASC. Thank you. And thank you. Yeah, that's, you know, you're getting just a sliver of the wisdom that these folks are sharing. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience at your hands. Please enjoy it, take advantage of it, and let's do it. So without further ado, I'm going to play the role of client today. And actually, we're going to set up a little shot because I need some promo for IBC, which is a little trade show coming up in Amsterdam. Anyone heard of that one? And in Amsterdam, they have a type of dance music called gabber hardcore. So I'm going to need 3 people to come up. I'm going to need Hajun Park. I'm going to need Brendan Romero. And I'm going to need Ariel Levesque because we are going to be shooting dance scenes. So I'm going to need some choreography if you're down to help out. I'm going to show you what the gabber dance looks like. I'll play a little of the music for us. And then if anybody feels so inclined or inspired to do a little gabber dance for the camera and get some shots of yourself in slow motion, there's nothing embarrassing at all about gabber dancing in slow motion because it's so slow, you're going to look elegant. But yet, that's the key word. He said the key word, yet. So before we run that, I'm just going to give you all the little cheat code here. What I have behind me on this slide is the cheat code access to the lowest price you're going to see on this camera, which is pretty bonkers in my opinion. I'm blown away. Take a picture of that QR code. You can get in early bird special on the deal on this Spark camera. I'd recommend it if you have the money. I don't. Anybody want to buy me one? Hook me up. See me after class. But let's shoot this gabber dance promo for IBC, and then if anybody wants to actually get a shot of themselves dancing, and we have this set up to do a little wraparound move, right?
Yeah.
But we'd want to do it a little bit lower. I don't know if that's possible, or we have a robotics specialist here, so.
Yeah. Well, I think if we're gonna have multiple people here and lots of things going on, let's focus on the camera
Fair.
and a setup. It's normally a 2-person job. I have another. It's a bit of a safety issue, I think, with all around. But we'll take it and we'll move it
We
into
could keep
place.
it kind of far away, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how things go. And,
Okay.
Yeah, but let's focus it. Yeah,
Let's see.
Focus on the shot and the dance.
That's how it
let's
always
focus
is in
on
the
the
workshop.
camera.
We're cooking.
Yeah.
You got to see how it goes,
Yeah.
right? We'll make it happen.
We'll move the robot and get it into place for fun.
Oh
And
yeah,
we'll
we have an
play with it. And then
urgent
if we
parking
dissipate a little bit, some
announcement
folks
coming
will
in
play-
from
hang
the
around, we can
outside.
play
Come
with
on
it.
down.
But yeah.
This is Jake, everyone.
Worried about
Say hi to
multiple
Jake. Give him a
dancing.
round of applause. Jake, let us know what's popping.
Oh yeah. Does anyone here have a red Ram pickup truck by chance? Oh yeah. If you could scooch it out of the way, it's blocking someone. That'd be wonderful. Yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you.
And please give a quick round of applause for our panelists today, Mr. David Stump, ASC, BBK, Ariel Levesque, and Mr. Drew Lauer. Awesome panel, awesome audience. Let's get right into this. We're going to bring in some high-key lighting with some backlight. We're going to bring in a backdrop, so if you can help me fly that backdrop in, Mr. Park. Mr. Romero, did you already leave? Bro. All right, well, can we get Sid? Sid, you down? You don't have to dance, but help bro move this, please. And yeah, let's enjoy. Does anybody here not have an Atlas Lensco mini slate? I call it the only business card you'll ever use. All right, if anybody wants these, put your hands up. I'll throw some to you. Okay, don't get hurt. Don't hurt anyone. Call me Gambit. We have any X-Men fans here? All right, I'm going to throw a few more of those after we carefully bring that in. Just tilt the bottom down, bro. Tilt it down, and then walk it back. Walk it like you talk it. All right, we got a couple more slates. I'm going to play a track. I don't have to throw them at you either if you don't want to play. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, okay. We got them here. You don't have to get thrown at. Okay, there you go. Cheers. Thank you for playing along. Hey, there we go. Smooth. All right. Thank you for playing along too, Drew. I know that's a bit of a change of pace, but you know, mainly we just want to see the dancing of the feet, so probably a low angle shot. And yeah, and I could put a wider lens. Why don't we throw the 24 on? Is that all right with you? I wanted to get wider. Yeah, 24. Then it's like about the. Yeah, let's do it. They don't have to be dancing together. We could do one at a time. I was thinking just isolation. One person, you know, we'll let them do their thing, and then we'll switch them out. And then it's like, you know, safe, one person at a time. Safe boundaries. We'll establish a safety boundary. You know, they say safety is no accident. Am I right? So let's hold that. Safe word, banana. It's appealing. The camera specs. So I'm just going to like ramble off what I believe the specs to be. And someone will, so the Pixies will yell at me if I'm wrong. But this sensor is a tall APS-C Super 35 format. So it's around a 4 perforation film size, 4 per film. It is global shutter. It is backside illuminated. Frame rates up to 4K at 1,000 frames a second. The RAW is uncompressed RAW, but it is 10-bit, so I'd call that truncated personally if you'd ask me, but you know, that's debatable. Maybe they'll unlock 12-bit RAW someday, I don't know, no promises. Everybody's a bit, you know, shifty, but in a good way. Sensor output? The sensor can do 12-bit, yeah. Don't ask me, bro. I'm just here. It can do anamorphic D-squeeze, and they also have vertical D-squeeze. So like, if you want to shoot Atlas scope by turning your camera 90 degrees and then D-squeezing in the opposite direction to get a square or near square aspect ratio at the higher frame rate, it does. Yeah. What? Remote operation, I believe they have a remote control app with native Wi-Fi built in, and I believe it has an Ethernet port. And I believe they also have like a RS-232 serial port. So they're working on the app. Talk to that guy if you want specific app features. The native mount, it has a sub mount that will take a E-mount, a Sony E-mount with electronic contacts. I don't know if the autofocus works, but I heard you can do iris control on like Sony G Master lenses. And then it also has a hard mount PL mount. So this one's using the E-mount to PL adapter right now, but there is one here with a native PL mount bolt on right now. Yeah.
Is it like the Amber that has internal memory?
No, so that's a great question. The mag is removable. So you can shoot to the mag and then swap in a different mag, and it's a NVMe SSD RAID. So there's 2 disks in there, and that's how they get the data rates that they need. So you can shoot to the mag, you take the mag out, and then you don't need a special reader. It actually has a USB 3.2 port, so you can just plug it into your computer directly with a USB-C cable and download. And I believe it uses EXFAT, native EXFAT. So it should be fairly compatible.
The idea is that the camera, you can roll, you can fill out the drive all the way up to 2.5 terabytes. With the 4K 1000. And 4K 1000, exactly. The continuous firmware allows us to shoot without. So you guys have actually experience with Hanson and how limited it is. Yeah, limited. Like it's in its past work too, but basically the difference that it shoots in a RAM buffer, so it continuously is shooting and erasing.
Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Like whatever was in the buffer of film at that moment is what you have. This has a buffer. It's a RAM. So it's more limited. It's like a 20 gig buffer. That is thank you.
that is used to stabilize the signal that gets written straight to SSD. So instead of using the buffer, filling it up, and then erasing it as we go, and then just having that clip, it's just our video goes straight through the buffer, then written on SSD, and because SSD is even the best one, which are the ones we use, will sometimes dip a bit in speed, like depending on thermal and whatever happens. So this is where that buffer takes the load a bit. But basically, we're shooting straight to SSD all the way up to 2.5 terabyte.
And for someone who's not technical about the coding,
Yes.
like for instance, the Ember is 422.
Yeah. So, well, what we're recording here is uncompressed raw 10-bit. So it's not 422. There's no color compression. Like it's raw. So it's not even debayered yet. So technically, it has no color information yet. You do the debayer when you import it. But what we're seeing from the camera output is an in-camera debayer. It's not quite the same as what you see when you the actual file looks much better. But it's very helpful for framing and to get a sense of yeah.
So the preview you're going to get on the monitors
it's
here in a
just
second.
to-
I think we
to-
got to flip the cable direction or something to get the picture up.
I'm just gonna hold on. I'm just gonna
Or
make
turn the
sure.
monitor on. So the preview you're going to get is basically like a viewfinder tab for now. It's going to be a linear. It's not even real Rec 709 right now. It's like a linear sensor output. So it's going to look kind of clippy. It's going to be kind of grainy, not in terms of like noise, but it's going to look kind of gritty because you're going to get like a line skipped output for the preview display just for framing and composition. And it's not really color accurate, but when you get it in the computer, you'll see color accurate. So you're going to want to either light meter, or they're going to want to implement a log profile for viewing in their viewing pipeline. But there's a lot of stuff they still have to do with the firmware. So you'll see here when we run it. But we also have a DaVinci Resolve station set up back there with clips from yesterday and today. So if you want to play around with some of the clips and take a look at that, I can send someone back there with a Resolve station now while we're setting up this shot. If there's a few people that want to break off, we can get you set up to actually look at some of that footage and experiment with it. And then the rest of us will set up the shot here of the Gabber Dance promo. And if you want to dance, we'll also try to get you up here and let you do a little bit of dancing and get some clips of yourself. So yeah, go ahead, Julia. 2 native ISOs. It's a dual native ISO 400 and 1250.
Correct. Yeah, so one of them is a 12G SDI video output. The other one is a sync port that's going to be used for basically frame grabs. It's to sync the cameras. So you can sync cameras together. You can use it for strobe and whatnot, but also with a pulse generator, it can send. It's a low-level access to the frame grabber of the camera itself. So if you had a pulse generator, you could speed ramp in camera, which some people have been doing with Phantoms. Like at each pulse that you provide the sync port, the camera grabs the frame. So if you were to start at 100 pulse per second and ramp it to 1,000 pulse per second, well, you would have an in-camera speed ramp, basically. We know when we're releasing. We're officially launching September 17th, which is when the Kickstarter starts. And deliveries are expected to be as soon as December. So we're ramping production. We've already started production, but like now, at this point, we're like at 5 models a month, then 10, then 100, then ramping up. No, I mean the hardware will be final, and all the promised features for launch are going to be on board. But there are things that we're still working on that will be added, like ProRes on board. 3 flavors, 4444 XQ, 422 HQ, and LT, which also in-camera trimming, a lot more playback options, stuff like that. You had a question before. No, so that one, the ProRes and stuff, is not meant to be licensing. We're thinking of a licensing option for the 12-bit, because the sensor is capable of 12-bit. We're using 10-bit right now, it looks absolutely fantastic. If you look at the DIT station that we set up, we have some clips straight out of the camera that you can tell where the stops are distributed and stuff. It's actually beautiful. But the sensor being capable of 12-bit, which it compromises on the speed, the frame rates a little bit. If you when you unlock the 12-bit options, you're going to record at lower speed because you're recording a lot more data. but then it adds something like 1.5 stops more dynamic range, which we're already at 13 and a half, like just past 13, which actually we got the IMATES chart results. And if you guys are familiar with the Pixis 6K from Blackmagic, it is essentially the same results all the way. If you look at the yellow line, it's a bit better on the Pixboom than the Blackmagic 6K. Everything else is pretty much carbon copy. So it's a very, I mean, it's more than a usable camera. It's a camera that if they had audio on board, a lot of people use it as an A cam. Sorry, go again, yeah? You can convert those. We take money. Yeah, Master Cash, go. At the moment, it doesn't, but this is something that will be allowed. So at the moment, we were talking about this earlier, it's actually using the CPU of the camera to generate the output, so that's why it's a bit laggy and stuff. But there are 2 dedicated ASICs in camera to take care of the HDMI and the SDI. We're looking at outputting either overlays or even the full screen, you know, the big 6, the menu, and stuff like that. But yeah, we're designing the UI and overlays right now, so you're gonna have, you know, what you'd expect to see: your frame rates, your shutter speed, your white balance, your ISO and stuff, which kind of trigger mode you're in. I'm de-squeezing in camera right now. I don't know if that's causing any stutter. You'll see when I arm the camera, when it starts the because this firmware, yeah, it goes to like 6 frames per second, but this firmware is still in what we discussed a bit earlier, the circular buffer mode, the RAM buffer. I specifically asked to get a model that would have the earlier firmware, because all our other cameras have the latest firmware, the continuous recording. But for motion control, for the robot and stuff, this is something we're more used to, and we can get like a quick shot, like at higher frame rates without like, you know, generating huge amount of data. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't have those. I mean, I've been using it a lot. We go through like 2 or 3 V mounts a day on a 12-hour shoot in the studio. It consumes more when it's recording, obviously, but it's not crazy. It's also the DC input takes from 12 to 24, so it's quite flexible. We'll have partners. So not an official, like at first, not official Pixboom presence, but like distribution partners and support partners. So making sure that we have service centers for service partners to make sure that not only the cameras are available, but they're also supported in terms of hardware and repair. Yes. I get this a lot. Only in California. No, it's funny. The rest of the world is all over a V mount. Yeah. But no, unfortunately, it's a unibody, like aluminum unibody. And if you look at the way, when you get familiar with the cameras, like it's actually like CNC machined aluminum, the V mount. So it's a decision that was made because the rest of the world uses V mount. And I understand, gold mount is great. Like it's actually a stronger mount for sure. Yeah, it's arguably better, but it's just also the batteries are more expensive to produce. It's a whole supply chain things. This decision was made because like critical mass demands more V mount simply, and it's very easy to get an adapter plate, and not necessarily just a V mount to gold mount, but like to mount under the camera, so you keep basically the reason for your gold mount, which is sturdiness. If you shoot a documentary, you don't want to knock your battery out and stuff. I see people doing that. Yeah. It's about 2 pounds. Yeah, it's very light. Yes. Pardon me? Yeah. What's a typical day? So, I mean, no, it's a good question. Typically, I mean, so for the last 3 weeks, we've been shooting a lot. We're trying to amass as much content as possible for the big launch, the big reel. And we never filled the full 2.5 terabyte in one day. But again, we're shooting like a studio shot, control shot, robotic shot, where like we're controlling 2 seconds, 3 seconds. We're not rolling willy-nilly, so it depends on how you're using it. What's that? Well, I can tell you full res, like for example, this one is easy to calculate because it's on a RAM buffer. So every clip that we capture at 4K DCI lasts 1.8 seconds and it weighs 16 gigs. So take it from there. And it's raw, so you can literally do, what's that? Yeah, Yeah, pretty much. At that rate for uncompressed, yeah. Hold on, we have one more here. Yeah, so good question here. He's asking about whether the camera has touchscreen control, right? That's what. So it does. So the camera is controlled by touchscreen, so the whole UI can be controlled. And also, because not everybody likes the touchscreen, also there's situations where you're going to be wearing gloves or you can't really access, or it's going to be in an enclosure, so you can lock the touchscreen, and we made sure that all the buttons allow for the same control, so there's no compromises. Yes? Pardon me? No. So that's an interesting question as well. People ask, because we have an active E-mount, whether we're going to have autofocus. Something to, like... So, and that was my answer. So, autofocus, even the best cameras today will autofocus. Excuse me. At about a rate of 120 frames per second, right? So when you're shooting at 1,000 frames per second, autofocus will do nothing for you. And also, at this speed, like, I mean, unless you have the fastest focus puller in the world, keep your shot in focus. Or, I mean, for long, you know, depending on the frame rates you go, it will not have, short answer, it will not have autofocus. It will have... You'll be able to set the focus, it will not track it. I love it. I think I'm being, I'm being chased off the stage. I'm just answering questions here, guys. Yes. So, good question. Operating temperature. Last week we were in Dubai shooting at 45 degrees in the shade, and we put the camera through torture tests after an hour. So the new firmware with the continuous and the new cooling system that's in that, after an hour at 45 degrees outside, the sensor didn't get higher than 51 degrees, and I was operating at optimal performance. Yeah, so we didn't go to that end, but typically most electronics love cold. Like the batteries are gonna drop faster, but most electronics, including sensors, perform better under cold temperatures. I mean, up to a certain point.
So real quick, just to let everyone know, we only have 15 minutes left here. So in those 15 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to let Ariel take your questions at the DaVinci Resolve
I'll
station.
go there. I'll be quiet.
And then that way, not to be quiet, but just so that you could answer their questions and they can hear you. And they could see the clips because they haven't seen the footage. So if you want to get questions with Ariel, and if you want to look at DaVinci Resolve clips, raise your hand. Head over there. Yeah, follow Ariel. Just go on over there. And if you want to see the camera in action, come on over here, and we're going to start. Yeah. I'll see if you can get